we're just coming past Braunston turn, as you probably saw on the bow cam, and we've got a boat across the cut in front of us, so I'm going to put the camera down and concentrate. We tried to wind Amyjo a rugby, but turned in the wrong winding hole. And Smudge, after wading in muddy pond water, gets a shower. We take a look at a very iconic church in Braunston. Good morning everyone. Today's the 17th of October and we've just left our moorings between bridge 124 and 125, sorry, 102 and 103, I beg your pardon, somewhere else that was. So now we're making our way to Braunston, where we're going to visit the Chandlers if it's open, and spend a couple of days in Braunston. Well, this is a pair of boats that we've seen before, Starcrafts, and they are, well, traders. You can get the name out. Yeah. There you go. Beautiful pair of boats, lovely painted, well maintained. It's the first time we've seen a very well known local landmark around Braunston. It's Braunston Church, or its spire. It can be seen for miles around, and it's a very well known boaters church. Might explore that later. This is Braunston Junction. And Midland Chandlers is just through the arch there. We want to go to Midland Chandlers. There is a mooring, hopefully just round the corner here, that we can moor up at and then walk round. But Liberté is on the mooring where we wanted to go because we wanted to go to the shop. But hopefully we can squeeze in along here somewhere.
You can't get across, so...
Not from there, no, that's why I wanted to come this side. Well, we made a right turn at Braunston Junction and we managed to find the last mooring on the visitor moorings opposite the Boathouse pub. So this is us now for a while. Smudge, come. Good boy. We're making our way up to Braunston Church and it's a bit of a climb, so excuse the heavy breathing, but just look at those views. It's beautiful up here. Canal is just below. The building behind the White House is the pub, the Boathouse, so that's where the canal is. Walk up the hill, but the walk up the hill is well worth it when you're greeted with a view like this. It's a beautiful church, even from the distance, but close up. Let's go and have an explore, shall we? All Saints Church at Braunston is the third such church on the same site. Braunton's had 3 churches since Norman times, serving the ever-changing community. All 3 churches have been on the same site at one end of the ridge where initially a cluster of farmsteads and dwellings grew. The site is almost certainly an ancient terminus, burial ground. It's said the original Norman church was polluted by murder in 1290. The restoration of church services was supposedly denied until a new church was built. There's evidence, however, that there was confusion between Braunston and Braunston, and even there the trouble was not murder but bloodshed that was not fatal. If you watched our Christmas vlog, you would probably have seen us ringing the bells here at All Saints Church. A survey of 1552 states that there were 4 bells in the tower and a Sanctus bell. In 1672 these 4 bells were cast into a ring of 6, but the casting couldn't have been very successful because the 3rd bell was later recast, possibly by one of the Bagley family. Then in 1811, not for a long time for bells, the entire ring was again recast by John Bryant of Hertford, a founder of considerable repute, and these bells still serve us today, 200 years later. Well, it's currently 10 to 12 in the morning, and as I was videoing the spire, I hadn't realised that right at the top is the moon. This was all that's left of the village windmill, which looks like now it's been converted into a residence, but it's located at the bottom of the church grounds. And just look at that. How beautiful is that? Well, what I've done is I've stood too. What I thought were paintings are actually all made out of canvas.
10 little ducks went swimming.
Don't remember them being here.
Right, come on then, Mr. Man. Round you come. In the shower. Come on, in you go. You were the one that rolled in all the whatever it was you rolled in. So you're the one who must have had the shower. Aren't you? Hey? There we go. Not that bad, is it? Oh, it's a bit hot. He doesn't actually mind this once he's in. He doesn't like the thought of it, do you? As you can see, he just stands there while I put all the shampoo on him. Yeah. Not too bad, I suppose. Look, there's the colour of water that smudge has come out of. There we go. Put you back over there. That's your top half then. Let's have a look at your bottom half. There we go. That wasn't too bad, was it, Smudge? So we'll drop. He's got the shirt, the towel over him. And he shakes himself. There we go. Let's get this. Here. Here we go. You're going to have a little shake then. You're going to have a shake. Have a shake. That's it. There it is. Little bit bedraggled. It's nice and warm in the boat, so it'll dry off quite quickly. And this is what happens to Smudge after he's had his shower. Finished?
Well, good morning folks. We're on the move again. We've had a nice couple of days in Braunston, and we are now moving on up the Oxford, making our way up to Rugby because we need dog food for young Smudge, and the only place we can really get the food he likes is Pets at Home, and the nearest one is Rugby. So that's where we're heading. We're not going to do it today, of course, because it's too far, but we might get to the bottom of Hillmorton locks, call it a day there, and then carry on tomorrow. But as usual,
He's in his...
We're all on board.
Yeah.
There's Chris and there's the boy. He's got his coat on now because he's sitting up there. He's starting to feel a chill.
Yeah, the wind gets him.
The wind gets him a little bit, so there we go. But, we're just coming past Braunston Turn, as you probably saw on the bow cam, and we've got a boat across the cut in front of us, so I'm going to put the camera down and concentrate. Braunston Turn, and the way we're going now is up the Oxford. One thing that is notable about this stretch of canal is, although it's not particularly wide, the bridges have large arches, wide sweeping arches like this one, and quite a lot of space underneath, which makes a change from those tight ones where you can just squeeze the boat through. But beautiful looking bridges in their day, and just look at that. How lovely. As you've probably noticed by now from the bow footage that this stretch of canal is particularly straight. Reminds me a little bit of the Llangollen in places, but when this canal was originally built, it was built as a contour canal, very few locks, apart from 3 at Hillmorton. And it was quite twisty and turny and quite lengthy, and it was taking a long time for the boats to negotiate the turns. So at a later date, the canal was straightened out, and there are a lot of little side cuttings that come off the canal, but there are also these long straight stretches. Now, if you've been following Alan on my Narrowboat venture, he's recently done this trip, so I'm finding it really hard to not copy what he's done. But he did mention it's not easy to moor up on this canal, and you can see why. Most of the side of the canal banks have these concrete sloping slabs. Try saying that when you've had a few beers. Concrete sloping slabs. So there aren't many places to moor up. You are reliant on Armco on this stretch of the canal. So we'll see how we go. The other thing of note as well is, as you can see, it's quite remote. A lot of farmland, a lot of sheep and cattle in the fields around us. And this particular one, I don't know if you can see the stripes in the video. Let me zoom in. As Ridge and Furrow Farm in the past, and you can just make out the ridges and furrows on this one. So this is a relatively new marina. This is Dunchurch Pools. It's also currently the home of our friend's boat, Morning Star, from Ian and Carol on Narrowboat Tales, and we hopefully will be seeing them in the next couple of weeks, which by the time you're watching this we'll have long seen them. But what a lovely looking place. How about one of them in the garden?
And this one's got a shepherd's hut.
And this one's got the shepherd's hut.
And look at the well.
And they've obviously got their well decorated, ready for Halloween. Nothing like having your own tree house on your mooring. I should imagine that'd be quite pleasant up there in the summer.
Lookout tower.
As it was getting late in the day and we still had the Hillmorton locks to descend, we decided that we would pull in just above the locks on the local visitor moorings. Morning, another morning on the Oxford Canal, and today we're continuing our journey towards Rugby. First thing though is we have the 3 Hillmorton locks to contend with, and then it'll be a shortish cruise I think today. Chris is already set up, he's got a windlass, he's got the dog ready, here he is down there, excuse the shaky camera, and we're just coming up to locks very shortly. So there's a boat gone up just ahead of us, but they are in pairs I understand, according to Chris. They're in single pairs. So
And 2 came up yesterday, so I think if there's nothing coming up, 2 can go down today.
yeah, exactly. So there we go.
And I can smell food.
Yeah, so can I.
What's the matter? Really? Do you want to come up the top again?
Yeah.
Do you? Okay then.
That's the first of the Hillmorton locks, and as you can see they're very much like those on the Trent and Mersey, they're in pairs. These sayings on the lock beams are part of the Hillmorton lock lines, written and designed by Roy Fisher. The 4 lines at Hillmorton in the correct order are: working water, captive for a while, climbs carefully down, this door makes depth. That's the Hillmorton locks done. So we're just stopped on the water point now. Going to fill up with some water and then we'll carry on into Rugby. When we came through Rugby, the moorings were quite busy, so we thought no problem, there was a couple of spare ones, we'll wind and go back. And as you probably saw from the bow camera there, we got stuck across the canal. According to Pearson's, this turning was actually the course of the original canal, so naturally we assumed that we could turn in this entrance and wind and go back to Rugby. Unfortunately it was tighter than we thought it was, and we hit the opposite bank and got wedged. Fortunately with the pole we managed to pole ourselves off, only to find out that where a boat was moored was actually the winding hole. We couldn't see the winding hole because the boat was in the way. But we've got ourselves round now, and we're now heading south again, back into Rugby, because from there is where we want to get. So that shopping centre down there. But the problem we have along this stretch, which would be perfect, no mooring. But then again, don't really want to moor up against that. Well, that was a bit stressful, trying to get the boat winded to come back. But as luck would have it, the boat that was moored here, there we were thinking of mooring behind, has actually gone. So we've managed to find ourselves a nice little spot just after Bridge 58, heading south. And as a bonus, now the leaves are dropping off the trees, we are starting to see some solar. So we couldn't have picked a better spot really, apart from the noise of the bridge. But hey ho, can't have everything.
You know what? Smudge was pulling all the way here. Now he's got his trolley full of food. He's not leaving it out of his sight. In fact, if he could, I think he'd actually be in the trolley. Come on, Smudge, walk on.
Just got time to say a big thank you to our Patreon crew, especially our new Patreon member, Justine Diamond. Thank you, Justine, it's most appreciated.